The Holy Gospel according to Matthew, the 22nd chapter. Once more Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again he sent other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, look, I prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his slaves, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his troops. He destroyed those murderers, and he burned their city. Then he said to his slaves, 'The wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore into the streets and invite everyone you find to the wedding banquet.' Those slaves went out into the street and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad, so the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing a wedding robe. And he said to him, 'Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding robe?' And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Bind him hand and foot, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" This is the gospel of the Lord. The texts this week are full of imagery of the ultimate feast. Isaiah gets down to the juicy bone and has us salivating. And there are those well-aged grapes and rich food. I can only imagine also that there are melted cheeses everywhere. Those are my personal favorites. And salsa. Peach salsa, too. There's cause to celebrate. The host has called all people together and invites them to enjoy the richness of food and entertainment and relationships, and more important than anything, to rejoice together in the fact that death has been swallowed up in victory. Isaiah tells us that there is no fear of dying. God wipes away the tears. God wipes the tears. God doesn't get rid of them completely, because tears are made for celebrations too. God calls Israel to this banquet to celebrate salvation. Israel has waited for this day, we hear. This text has a scent of Advent to it, doesn't it? That waiting theme. How appropriate for us today, as the air is changing around us, the leaves are falling, the wind is blowing, and we start planning for cooler days, leading us to December and Advent 1. The king in the gospel text also wants to gather the community together for another reason. His son is getting married. Now, we don't know anything about the prince's bio. Have no idea who he's marrying. All we know is that there's a celebration and it's a big deal for the king. And no one seems to be showing up. And may I add that it's probably a big deal for the kingdom, too. Is this celebration about salvation? Well, the king is responsible for the people to keep them safe and ultimately keep them from starving. I suppose you could argue that. And salvation, well, it looks as if your life could be in jeopardy if you don't attend this wedding. And you're really in trouble if you kill the king's messengers, too. That is not a good thing. There's something that the king wants to share with his people. And the people don't seem to be taking this very seriously. You know, I always feel sorry for the guy who shows up in the wrong clothes, but I believe the point here is that the man was invited to a wedding feast. And he treated the invitation lightly, as if he were attending a barbecue. He forgot what this was all about. But this somewhat harsh consequence parable, we have to admit that this is one of the harsher parables, is not given to us so that we can establish a dress code for worship. Not any more than it is given to us to give the nod to killing people for refusing a dinner invitation. God has invited all of creation to celebrate the richness of God's goodness and to rejoice in the work of his only begotten Son. That's plenty to celebrate. And God does not want us to take this goodness thing lightly. As a matter of fact, God calls us to go out into the streets, into the alleyways, check under the bridges for the homeless. Find the very least of these in the community, bring them to the table, and share the goodness with them. Jesus' immediate audience included the religious leaders of Jerusalem who were not taking God's invitation seriously. There was something there about the Son, something about the Son of God that they were rejecting. The writer of the Gospel, some 50 years or more later, had experienced even more rejection and had actually seen destruction, including the temple being destroyed in 70 A.D. Not to mention the Son of God being spit upon, beaten, speared in the side, flogged, nailed to the cross, and killed. Buildings, communities, whole lives, real lives, were being destroyed. If you remember in last week's parable about the vineyard workers, remember they entertained the thoughts of killing the owner's son. What's wrong with these folks that Jesus is dealing with? Why don't they have the basic respect for human life? Why don't they take seriously this invitation to come to God's banquet feast? How about the audience today in 2020? God invites us all to the grand feast to share in the life that God has given us, to live life abundantly. But so often we head the other way. We have the farm chores or the business to tend to. The celebration is about someone else. We don't see ourselves in the picture, or we forget what we're doing as we enter the feast and forget why we are there. We sort of forget that idea of sharing. You know, I do feel sorry for that guy with the wrong clothes, thinking that his buddies weren't looking out for him, letting him attend a royal banquet in anything other than a wedding robe, right? As much as we want to point fingers at the religious leaders of Jesus' day, we have more in common with them than we probably want to know. God stands right in front of us, right in front of our eyes, and we often miss it. Actually crying out to God, "Where are you? Where are you? You've let me down." And God is right there in another way. Jesus is in our midst, and he's beckoning us to join him in the group he has gathered, and we just don't get it. God invites us to the table of forgiveness and restoration. God opens the hallways to new life. God even prepares a table for us in the presence of our enemies. We know that one from Psalm 23. I would say the toughest times of life, including these months of COVID, are some of the toughest times that any of us have experienced in life. And God sets that table for us right where we are. The feast, or for now the foretaste of the feast to come, is laid right out in front of us. And it may not look like what we expect it to look like. I think sometimes we only see God in the things that we're familiar with. Perhaps we only see God in that traditional church building. Remember, the Son of God was born in a barn and died. He hung on a jagged tree. Remember that Jesus said the kingdom of God is as such, and he pointed towards the least likely candidate of the day, the children. I think of the children that I see out here on the playground right now, playing on the swings. The feast is laid out there in front of us, and instead of us watching and waiting and looking to God, we missed what it is that God has invited us to. And like the vineyard workers last year, we forget who owns the banquet house and who has invited us and whose celebration this is. We show up at the banquet house and we want to make it our celebration. In these months of COVID, I pray that God's people have seen the banquet feast for what it is. It's a table that's prepared in all times and in all places and in all spaces. I pray that as we have not been able to enter the traditional brick and mortar house of the Lord, that we have encountered table after table laid out for us in the wilderness, in the pasture, in the presence of our enemies, in the face of death. I pray that in those moments God's people have been fed by the rich food that God would have us be fed by. I pray in those moments God's people have brought others to the table in unique ways. I pray that in our future moments in ministry, that we as a church have our eyes open to the wideness of God's invitation, and that our vision for sharing God's goodness is fresh and anew. Paul has been exhorting us over the last few weeks in Philippians to keep our eyes on the prize, Jesus Christ, the one who is God in every situation. He offers these words today, which are so relevant for our moment. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let not your gentleness be known to everyone. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. I pray that you will be fed this week at the tables of God that are spread out before you. Look for God. God is there. God is with you. Thanks be to God.